Hey traders, welcome back to the FXE YouTube channel. I hope everyone is having a good weekend. In this video, I'll review last week's price action and then analyze the markets to give some ideas where price may want to go next week. As you may have seen, the lack of liquidity has been causing huge swings in the markets nearly every day. But the good thing is, we're nearly at the end of August and things should start to become more normal entering into September. Structure should hold more consistently and should be a lot less choppy, but at the same time, we probably won't see near as many 100 pip moves when things return back to normal. So let's get into the charts and have a look in more detail. But before doing so, just a quick announcement. First, I've completely cleared my charts, so none of the higher time frame history you saw before will be visible anymore. Also, I switched my EU chart to 8-cap market data. I like the way the candles are printed on 8-cap, as I still have the wicks like Forex.com, and I also get the volume, which wasn't available with Forex.com. And just a really quick reminder, if you find value while watching this video, please be sure to click the like button and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. And as always, starting with the fundamentals, we have quite a bit of news next week. On Monday, we have a day off for the UK. On Tuesday, we have CPI in Europe, as well as consumer confidence and unemployment rates in the US. On Wednesday, we have more CPI in Europe, as well as ADP employment in the US. On Thursday, we have PMI and unemployment rates in Europe, as well as PMI in the US. And then on Friday, we have NFP. We also have unemployment as well in the US. So, all in all, we have quite a bit of significant news, and we could end up with another wild week for price action. So, let's move on to Dixie. Starting on the weekly, the week before last, right here, we saw price come into demand. We had a reaction off of it. Then last week, we saw a bullish candle, and this week, we saw a little continuation. So on this time frame, Dixie is clearly bullish. Now, if we go to the daily time frame, we start to see a different picture. So first, the high was never broken. The high held. After mitigating the extreme of supply, Dixie started to push down. Then we saw a pullback, and then we saw a bigger push to the downside. But the last candle came right back up, and then it pushed deeper to the downside. But then it came back very strongly and ended the week with a bullish candle. So on this time frame, you can see a lot of mixed signals. On one hand, it looks like it's shifting bearish by creating these lower lows. But it also came back and mitigated some supply. But the bullish candle, after breaking down, let's have a quick look. So it came down nearly to the 382 fib retracement level, and then we had a massive reaction and pushed higher. I'm just wondering, by looking at this, did it take what it needed to take from the downside, and is it going to start going to the moon now? So anyways, let's move forward and analyze further on the 4-hour time frame. So what can we see on the 4-hour time frame? So after that last push to the upside, you can see price reacted, and thereafter we had a really nice push to the downside. Price looks like it correctively came up back into supply before pushing right back down to the downside, and we did see some nice impulsive candles to the downside. But then we had another corrective push to the upside, and then a very aggressive push to the downside, bringing us deeper into the downside. But then we had that massive push to the upside, and not really sure what to say about this. Potentially it used this last high as inducement, coming into a refined supply zone, and this refined supply zone, if I go really quick on the 15-minute, you can see this was a huge manipulation candle. So there is a possibility that this push up was only to come into this supply that was created by this manipulation candle, and then potentially pushing back down to the downside. But at the same time, this push up, it clearly created a change of character, and we may have already seen realignment with the higher time frames, and potentially after a pullback we could go right back up, attacking the highs. So in terms of my bias, it's not really clear for the time being. There's a lot of mixed signals. I really need to see a little more price action. As I said, I'm anticipating a pullback to test demand and then potentially scream to the upside. But at the same time, we did tap into that refined 15-minute supply zone that did have that very nice manipulation candle. So potentially there is a chance that we may come down from here. And to be completely honest, my preference is that this is just a retest of supply and we get to see Dixie come down further. The reason why I say that is because it's so much easier to see a shift of structure and take longs on EU from the extreme lows than it is taking any shorts at this level. I mean, it's just, I mean, you always have in the back of your mind that how low can EU really go? Anyways, let's move on to EU. So on the weekly time frame, you can see the week before last, we had that push up, mitigating the weekly imbalance, and then after that, huge reaction, and then a huge push to the downside, with this very strong bearish candle. And then last week we had another bearish candle, kind of looking like continuation, and you can see the low was broken, and we did have some sort of a reaction off of it, but to be completely honest, on this time frame, EU looks heavily bearish for the time being. And then on the daily time frame, honestly, it looks like a complete mess. Ever since that reaction from the break of the lows, we've created doji candles every day since. The only thing that is noticeable is that the wicks are getting higher and higher. It does appear that EU is starting to show some strength, but that huge wick on Friday could just be a rejection and a sign that price may want to come down from here. So if we move on to the 4-hour time frame, so we start to see things starting to look a little different. So you can see after creating that low, we came out quite strongly, showing some clear signs of strength. Then we had that pullback, and it's pretty corrective in nature. That came deep into demand, but then it reversed, pushed up, continuing to break the previous high, and then we tapped into supply here, but then we came right back down, started to consolidate a little, came back into demand, and then we had one more aggressive push to the upside that once again broke the highs and tapped into the next supply level, but then we had an even more aggressive push right back down. So as you can see, it's really tough to say what EU wants to do from here. We're really getting multiple signs here on the 4-hour time frame, and if we just have a quick look on the 15-minute time frame, so after that last push to the upside, we did come back into 4-hour supply, and you can see it kind of looks like this potentially could be a UTAD. It looks kind of like we are doing some sort of distribution with that last push to the upside, clearing liquidity. We have all this liquidity here, tapping into demand, and potentially now maybe it wants to go to the downside. So when I look at this, you could also see we had quite a few manipulation candles to the downside. They're much easier to see on the 5-minute actually, if I go on the 5-minute. So yeah, you can see clear manipulation candles at all of these supply zones. So potentially maybe we pull back into one of these supply zones with these manipulation candles, react from there, and then start pushing to the downside from there. So I'm just going to switch back to the 4-hour while I sum up what I'm seeing on EU. So again, the bias is quite hard to determine when taking both the price action of Dixie and EU into account. In terms of the arguments for the bullish scenario, EU is forming bullish structure with higher highs and higher lows. There is still liquidity to the upside that hasn't been taken yet, as well as the weekly imbalance right at this 4-hour supply zone. Dixie just tapped into that 15-minute refine zone that I wanted to see mitigated before pushing down further. So there are some arguments for the bullish scenario on EU. But then if we look at the arguments for the bearish scenario, so first and foremost, potentially the higher time frame aligned as we tapped into that 4-hour supply, and this 4-hour supply was the one that broke the low. We also had that massive pullback after tapping into that supply. You can see that every time we've tapped into a significant zone, we could potentially say that the first push up tapped into this area, which could potentially be seen as a supply zone, before having a massive reaction off of it. Then the next level of supply before having a massive reaction, and then the next level of supply before having a massive reaction. So you can see there's huge selling pressure every time EU pushes higher. We did take a lot of buy side liquidity when we came above when we came above, Jesus Christ, sorry about that. So we did take a lot of liquidity when we did push up into this supply zone. Dixie's already showing signs that it may push higher by creating that change of character. But we really need to see this demand level go for more confirmation that the bearish scenario is in play. So as of right now, I will be looking for buy setups earlier in the week. I would like to see pullbacks to one of those supply levels that were marked on the 15-minute chart for potential sell opportunities, and potentially a bigger push up, breaking this supply and going to the next supply zone, and at the same time it would also clear the weekly imbalance, and then start to look for price to push down to the downside from there to attack the lows, and break down further to the downside. So essentially there's 3 scenarios that I'll be looking for. So first, regardless of this demand level failing or not, I will be looking at this last high as potentially the last high for shorting opportunities, as we'd had that massive impulse down and tapped into this supply zone that I was saying before. Kind of looks like a potential UTAD with the potential realignment with the higher time frames, and look for a retest for entries, retest of those supply zones for entries to take the price to the downside. The second scenario I'll be looking for is one more break to the upside, coming into this supply zone here, which would also clear the weekly imbalance as further confluence, and then looking for shorting opportunities to take the price back down to the downside. And then the third scenario, supply may very well fail, so we may come up, break this supply zone, come up further, break this supply zone as well. And if that happens, obviously we are quite bullish, and I will reevaluate. But to be completely honest, it's not really the scenario I'm expecting for the time being. But at the same time, we do have some confluence with Dixie as it finally tapped into that 15-minute refine zone that I wanted to see mitigated. Even if on Dixie it's showing more signs of strength than weakness. And I could completely be wrong with all these scenarios as well. But if that happens, I will just readjust according to what price action is showing me. And as the week goes on, I'll reanalyze during my daily videos and showing you what I'm seeing as the week progresses. So anyways, that sums up today's weekend analysis. Hopefully you found it useful. Let me know your thoughts on next week's price action by leaving a comment below. And just to mention, if there's any other pairs you want me to analyze, let me know that too in the comment section below, and I may include them in the next weekly video, especially if structure looks nice for certain scenarios to play out. And as a final reminder, if you found value in this video, please be sure to click the like button and subscribe to ensure you don't miss any future videos. And honestly, I can't stress the importance of this. By you guys watching, subscribing, and interacting with my videos, it makes a huge difference on how YouTube shares my videos to others. Obviously, I want my YouTube channel to grow, but more importantly, I want to reach out to more traders that may be struggling trading the markets. So enjoy the rest of the weekend, and I wish you all a wonderful trading week next week, and looking forward to seeing you again for the next one on either Tuesday or Wednesday. Speak to you guys soon. Peace. Hey, you made it to the very end. Thanks for that. If you could do me one more favor and click the like button and subscribe if you haven't already, it'll allow the YouTube algos to kick in and help this channel grow. Thanks again. Cheers.